take a seat. This is the place where rivals meet. The battle begins, the stories ensue. It's time to dive into Battle Brew.
This is Battle Brew, where we shine the spotlight from the barracks to the battlefield and from basic training to ETS and even after. I'm your host, Austin Frankenberger, and today is
Marco Sanchez.
Thank you for joining me today. I know this is the first episode of the podcast, and I'm excited to get it started. Our whole objective is basically, to tell our stories from different backgrounds, different MOSs, different branches. You follow in the same boat as me right now, as we both chose an MOS coming from different MOSs. And we're here at Fort Sill, enjoying our time. We're in the Artillery Bowl right now. Not really. Yeah, I mean, we kind of ran out of stuff to do already. But, the podcast is just for us to be able to, me to bring on guests and talk about different tips and tricks that they might have, different experiences that they have. So either soldiers can follow in those footsteps and try to learn and basically have a leg up. But also just hearing different stories from, people's time in the military.
Yeah.
So speaking of that, I know that you had a different entry into the military. So if you want to speak on that a little bit, how was that?
Yeah, so I first enlisted May 17th, 2019 into the California National Guard. October 28th was when I shipped out to basic training. Went to basic training in Fort Jackson, South Carolina, and then I graduated at sometime in January 2020. When I went home, I got attached to a artillery battery out in Southern California, to where when I got there, I'm not sure if some of you know, but the Guard works with slots, so they didn't have a slot for me as a unit supply specialist. So they slotted me as a vehicle driver with a 13 Bravo MOS. So then I was doing both jobs essentially, illegal as shit, but because I was not certified, but I was doing both supply, and whenever we would go to NTC to go do our qualification tables, I would be in a gun doing fire mission, things like that. Once I found out that I really enjoyed this Army lifestyle, and just I come from a long family of, not from here, unfortunately, not in the US, but my family's originally from Mexico, so my family is either Air Force pilots or psychologists. So I knew for me, since I was little, the military was just always something that I wanted to do. Like most of us in the military, we would just see those movies, and we'd kind of, when the heroes and the soldiers would accomplish a mission, it would just line up. It would just line up your eyes, and I would play it around. I would play soldier with the neighborhood kids, and it just as I got older, it just made it more clear that the military was something I wanted to do. So then when I got to my battery, and I was asking about airborne school, aerosol, I wanted to do different weapon systems and all that, and unfortunately, the Guard, it has to do a lot with funding. So they were like, yeah, we have the weapons, but we don't have the bullets. So then it was very frustrating for me, trying to do most of the things that I saw in the movies. So then that kind of started putting that idea in the back of my head, like, hey, what if I were to go active duty? Unfortunately, I did meet, just like everybody, met some pretty toxic leadership. When I was...
What does toxic leadership look like to you?
Toxic leadership?
Yeah.
Somebody who puts themselves before the unit, before the soldier's well-being. Somebody who tries to be, honestly, a kiss ass when higher-ups are around. But when it comes to soldier care, it's just not. It's just not there.
So how do you typically deal with that? Like when you have a toxic leadership and you're trying to, you don't want to fall into that, and you also want to be there for other people. So like, what do you typically do to like work your way around it?
Honestly, I guess there's no really working your way around it. It was just working through it. I was brought up in one of those homes where it's like, shut the fuck up and just do what you're told.
Mm-hmm.
So the military, in a way, came easy to me. So especially going through basic training and all that, I was very fortunate enough to have some very, very tough drill sergeants who never laid back on us. It was from day one, from our shark attack, one of the last shark attacks that we had, the military had before they transferred over to the 100 yards.
Mm-hmm.
They never they never laid back. It was always about discipline. So once I got to my unit, it was like that. But everybody has a breaking point, and it came to a point where I was tired of those NCOs being hypocrites, all that, being two-faced. And so one day on my way to drill, my lower control arm popped off, broke off. So I almost crashed actually on my way, and my battery was about 2 hours away, 2 to 3 hours away. And the consequences of being a toxic leader is when your soldiers can't even communicate with you for simple things like, hey, I'm going to be late because of this. So I had no faith in my NCO at the time, that because I always knew he always had something to say. It's just got there late, and he started yelling at me in front of other people, in front of for those in the guard. It was RSP weekend, so we had like kids who were barely learning about the military, and you have this NCO just yelling at me because I didn't have the confidence in telling him, hey, I almost got into an accident, I'm gonna be late. And that was kind of like my breaking point, where sometimes you gotta stand up to that and respect, because you don't want to go down on their level. So I just kind of work through it. Don't let it kind of be. You take everything. How do you say it with a grain of salt?
Yeah.
A grain of salt. Yeah, you just always remember who you are, where you came from, and you don't let other people's perception of you become your reality.
Yeah, I feel like toxic leadership actually benefits you in as a way of a soldier and becoming a leader, because you know what not to be. Like you see firsthand, or you hear firsthand of how these different people operate, and you're like, well, I'm going to be better than that when I become a leader. And a lot of people are like you don't want to be like, oh, like I'm glad that they were toxic leaders. You weren't glad, but like what you don't want to be. Yeah, like you want to be there for your soldiers. You want to take care of them. That was a big thing for me. I've had some NCOs that were fantastic. There was some that were a little wonky, but for the most part, I've had pretty good leadership when it came in regards of like what my needs were, like my family's needs, and correspondence with that. But like I said again, you see it especially with other soldiers and like their NCOs. Like you see them getting just yelled at for no reason, just because the NCO or whoever it may be is having a bad day, and they take it out on their soldiers. I'm a firm believer of like, you want your soldiers to be like how you are. So if everybody works in like a close niche, then everything works better.
Yeah.
And speaking of, whenever you were saying about being raised in that household of shut the fuck up and get over it, basically.
Yeah.
And then moving forward into the military, like how was that like transitioning from where you were to now? And like what was some of the challenges from going from where you started to where you're at today?
Well, first of all, I don't know if y'all can tell, but I'm Mexican. Yeah, I'm one of the light ones. But you know, when I told my family I wanted to join the military, you know, as most families, um, especially coming like Mexico, yeah, it has its own internal problems, things like that. But here in the U.S., I mean, this is where the movies come from. You know, the Iraq War, Afghanistan, things like that. And just all you see is freaking bullets flying, bodies flying. You know, so they were very like, holy fuck, like we don't want you to do that. Like we don't want you to die. I don't want to die either, but you know,
I don't think anybody's
yeah, it's like I'm not planning on it. Yeah. You know, I didn't sign up to, you know, but definitely it was a you know, ever since I was little, when I first came to the U.S., I always liked helping people, and I always felt like I don't know, I'm not sure, man. I'm not sure how to describe it other than if y'all are religious, like it's kind of like my calling, you know. Like I definitely feel like the man above put me on this earth to do a service, whether that's police work, military, things like that. Even if it meant putting my life on the line. I don't like just in the way I am, my morals just like I feel like that so it was an easy transition. The only hard part was when I was going to basic. I guess a little bit of resiliency issue right there on my part. I had just had my first kid at 18, so it was very hard for me to be away from her and just missing out some of the things, you know, of her first steps. I believe I was in basic and either basic or AIT, and I just remember my ex-wife at the time. Yeah, I already got one of those. Ex-wife. But, you know, so send me videos of her taking her first steps, and, you know, it mentally, it wasn't even the physical part. It wasn't anything. Like, it was just missing out things for my kid. And, you know, that's when I had to talk with my drill sergeant. And, you know, that he was one of those where it's like he's gonna tell to you how it is. He's gonna tell you
straight.
Yeah, he's gonna tell you straight, man. It was like, honestly, Trini, stop being a bitch. I was like, Roger, drill sergeant. He said, stop being a bitch. He's like, I understand you miss your kids, you know. According to him, he missed a lot of time with his kid. So I guess he understood where I was coming from. But, you know, he said, sometimes you got to put your head down, focus on the mission. And it's kind of one of those long but slow runs where you just put your head down and you just keep going until the mission's accomplished. Including, he told me, like, stop writing letters, stop calling, like, so that way you can be focused here. Because what do they say in basic? The fastest way to get out of there is by graduating. So it was definitely, I believe that was the toughest transition for me, because other than that, I freaking loved every moment of it. It sucked. Obviously, at the time, it was cold as fuck.
I always said the Army's like the biggest roller coaster. Like you get
it's a love-hate relationship.
Yeah, you have so big of highs and so low of lows.
Toxica.
Yeah. Like you're like, I remember specifically like in the infantry, like, and my wife can attest to this. Like we do some cool shit, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is great. This is what I signed up for. You know, different stuff like that. And then like, we'd be doing the dumbest stuff you could possibly do. And I'm like, this makes me want to get out. Like, and then you're just like riding the roller coaster of like, oh, I'm going to stay in because I just did this. But yeah, I feel like it's all taking what you have at the moment, specifically.
Yeah.
To push through.
Yeah. So something that the military definitely humbles you. And if it hasn't humbled you, then you haven't been through enough situations. And I'm not saying that I haven't deployed or anything like that, but I know it's definitely we train like we fight, right? So I know definitely I've been put through some situations where it humbles you, you know, whether you're hungry, whether you even something simple as having your own bed, like, you know, because these fucking mattresses, the bees aren't it, man. Like, those things fucking hurt my back. But, you know, I think it humbles you, and I think it's definitely helped me grow as a person, because I definitely think that your home life and your military life, because it is a lifestyle. You cannot come into into the army. I can't speak for the branch, but you can't come into the army thinking like, oh, I'm just going to treat this like a 9 to 5, because that's when you can hate it. It can, but once you start picking up those appreciating those little moments of cool guy shit, or, for me, it was, after I would go to the field, I would look up in the stars, and it was like, it's fucking beautiful, it was just appreciating those little moments, and I'm like, holy fuck, like nobody else gets to live this, like except us. So I definitely feel like it just made me a better person, and it humbled me a lot. And I believe that, like I said, like your home life and your military life kind of coincide, because I believe, and I'm not sure if you've seen the movie, but We Were Soldiers. When Mel Gibson and that captain or lieutenant asked him like, hey, how do you become better, something like that, or something. I think he was about to become a dad, and then he said, well, I pray that being great at the other one makes me great at the other one as well. So I believe it. I'm a firm believer in that. I definitely don't believe in bringing your fucking drama from outside into the workplace.
Oh yeah, or vice versa.
Yeah, vice versa. Because you it's a team effort, and you need them both. You need your family and your unit, one way or another. Because at the end of the day, like that's all you got. You only have the person to your left and your right. And those kiddos, or that spouse at home. Yeah, that's all you can.
Yeah, I feel like just it's finding the perfect balance of what you need to do, and me getting out the first time, I felt like was like the right step, because I kind of, when you first get in the military and everything, like you become like that robot esque, and like your feelings and everything go out the window, and like you don't know. Like you're taking what we're talking about going, don't bring this to here or here to this, it was right for me, because I needed that break to kind of figure out what mattered most to me, and how to coincide the whole military and like family balance, and make it to where I'm not, slacking on one of the departments. And I feel like, for those of you that don't know, majority of you do if you're following, that I went active from, infantry. I was active infantry, got out, and then, I had that feeling that I was missing the military. So I was like, oh, I'll go do reserves. And then I went MP reserves, met a lot of great people there, some not great people there as well. But I'll tell you, the biggest difference was going from active to the reserves and seeing how different it is, and how more relaxed it is. And then, which is not a bad thing, but it's definitely not a good thing either, because, it created a lot of lazy people. But going from that to active duty now, and knowing how active duty was back then, this is a whole different ball game. Like the people are different. They're more focused on how to talk things out. Yeah, in a sense.
Some of these kids don't need that talking.
Yeah, it's like I was saying. Like it's always like a good thing, but a bad thing at the same time. Because it's a good thing because you're not having a bunch of people, hating life right away. Yeah. But you're also creating people that, just kind of do whatever they want. Yeah. And that was a big difference for me, coming back into active so far. And, it might be different for other people and how they view it. It might be different going from the infantry to this or the MP, it could all be different. It might just be MOS dependent, but I think it's, from what I hear, is majority of how the Army is now. Another question I had for you was what we were talking about before, about the process of you becoming, I'm trying to remember the exact word that you said as we were walking over here.
Like naturalized?
Yeah.
Oh, the immigration process.
speak on that, because there might be people that are wanting to do the same thing, or even wondering how it works.
Yeah. So for those of you, if you haven't been following, I was born in Mexico, came here when I was 6-7 years old. So my entire life has been here in the U.S. Fortunately, about in like 4 or 5 years ago, I was able to get naturalized. Don't let your immigration status scare you away from going into a recruiting office and talking with a recruiter. I'm not saying that all of recruiters are the same, but I know for sure their job is not to call fucking ICE and shit like that. Like, they're there to give you information on how to join and the steps for you to make that a reality. So I had a lot of people come up to me and ask me questions about, like, hey, how did you do it if you do have to be a resident in the US to join? You do have to do at least minimum, I believe, if it hasn't changed, a year in service before you can apply to become a citizen. So yeah, I mean, the steps is not hard. I mean, the biggest one is just becoming a resident, because as many people know, it's not an easy process, because at any point you can get denied. It could just take from a year to 2 years, 3 years. Sometimes you have to leave the country and continue your process elsewhere. So, and it's costly too. But like I said, don't let that discourage anybody from going to talk to a recruiter. And hopefully, if they're a good recruiter and they're not a piece of shit, they should be able to guide you in the right direction. But yeah, the minimum requirement is that you have to be a resident. And then once you hit your 1 year, you could apply for that naturalization to become a citizen. So, but you don't. So residency, you do have to pay for, of course, out of pocket, things like that. But then naturalization, it's free from the last time I checked. At least mine was free, because it's through the military. But yeah, I mean, it kind of takes care of itself once you're already in. You just go to your S1. You tell them your situation. You're trying to apply for citizenship and all that. You hit your 1 year. Make sure you save all your documentation, whether that's basic training, AIT, things like that. Make sure you save all of that, because you will have to submit proof that you are obviously in the military. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing that I didn't even know about was a thing until we talked about it. So, that's the thing. Like, we all come from different backgrounds in the military, and I know a lot of people that I've met and became friends with. We all have different backgrounds, and they always say the military is
a big melting pot.
Yeah, they said the military is where, like, you could have a redneck and a city folk and people from across the seas, and they're all friends. It's like, is there like a friend that you made that, like, just came out of the blue, like you weren't expecting it? I know from, like, basic all the way up to, like, now, like, I've made multiple friends that, like, just because we were there talking and we became friends.
Definitely not friends, as you know. Fucking hate people. Fucking hate people. Just because you always want to watch your back. Because it's happened. I'm sure it's happened to everybody, where you open up to somebody and they just kind of backstab you. So I've been very wary of people. Now I may talk to you, I may hang out with you and things like that, but honestly, to count you as my friend or anything like that, like, it has to be like. And it's not that I'm picky, it's just you gotta be nowadays. But honestly, no. But I do. The funny thing is that you said, like, people from different backgrounds. Like in AIT, I had a dude from Kenya, and another dude from Montana. The dude from Montana had never seen a black person or a Mexican before. He thought I was white, and I was, he had certain views about us, and I told him just one day, I don't get mad, honestly. Like, that shit don't matter. People have the right to their own opinion, things like that. But if your opinion is just based on somebody else's opinion and not based on your own experience. And if the shoe fits. But at the end of the day, like once I started educating him about uh, us immigrants that come here and all that, especially from Mexico, because I can't speak on behalf of the other uh, my other Hispanic people. He was very surprised. He was like, "Wow, I didn't know that." And I feel like all it takes is just that one sit down moment and just talk about the differences, the similarities, because a lot of us, I don't believe in that shit where it's like, oh, I'm better than you because of this. Not at all. Like I think we're all created equal. That's how the founding fathers, I believe, wanted it. And I'm not even from this fucking country, y'all. So if some of y'all are like fucking this whole, I'm not gonna get into it, but yeah. But I believe we're all created equal at some shape or form. So definitely, we all bleed red. And if you're wearing the uniform, then we're all the same, honestly.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So how do you? What would be some advice for somebody that's thinking about joining but like hesitant on like things that they're told, or because we talk about like firsthand experiences. Like I feel like a lot of people are kind of like, oh, I hear all these stories of how the military is and all like that. What would be like your advice for the people like that are contemplating joining or not?
It's definitely good to be wary, but at the same time, I believe you and I have a combined 10 years to 10, 11 years in the military. So I think we can all attest to that. Don't let somebody else's experience become your reality either. Yeah, everybody's experience is going to be unique, honestly. And it all depends on the mindset of the person. And it does have to do big with the unit that you get. But if you have that itch, the biggest thing for me, I've always been this way, where it's like if I want to try something and I don't do it, it's always going to be in the back of my mind, like, man, what if? And honestly, we don't have long in this life to have those what if. What if I joined this? What if I did that? Like, it's just go and do it. Honestly, you're not going to hurt yourself at all. You're actually going to benefit yourself, because if you don't know what to do with your life, you don't know if you're stuck between college or work or the military, I believe it's a huge stepping stone. Even if you do your 3 years and get out, it's a huge stepping stone and puts you ahead of those that it just puts you ahead, if that makes sense. And I wouldn't discourage anybody from joining, because I can speak from my experience, right? I had a lot of buddies in California. I grew up in California, to where some of my buddies went to some of the best universities, UC Santa Barbara, Stanford, Harvard, things like that, to where they're paying, right now they're like over $100,000 in debt. Still, there's nothing wrong with that. But still, if you pay for higher education and the best thing you can do is dominoes, then there's something wrong with either our education system, your work ethic, or both. I'm not sure. But it's not to downplay anybody that does those jobs, because we need those jobs regardless. I love fucking pizza, man. Like, so somebody needs to. I don't know how to make a fucking pizza. But definitely, then there's me, where with a little perseverance and taking care of my money and things like that. At 21, I was able to buy my house. I have a good car, thank God, and things like that. So it's just different experiences, and I have a lot of buddies that wanted to join but went another route. They're like, holy shit, like you have this, and this, and this. But it's not about the material stuff. It's about the military does help you. If I were to get out right now, and I decided to pursue higher education, I could probably go into for logistics. Go into logistics, and everybody needs logistics. So that just puts me higher than somebody who's just graduated high school and, you know, first year college student, things like that. So, you know, if you don't be hesitant, man, and honestly just fucking go for it, because it's rather do it now that you're young than later. And honestly, like, if you like, now's the time to not have these excuses of, oh, I can't pass the ASVAB, because now they have the program called 09 Mike, to where if you can't pass the ASVAB but you're right there, they'll literally send you to a school in, I believe, South Carolina, Fort Jackson, South Carolina, to where it's tutoring for the ASVAB, and they give you the fucking answers to the test and you pass. I had this buddy, couldn't pass the ASVAB to save his fucking life. Couldn't. Then this program came along. He tried for 4 years to join. Couldn't pass it. Finally, this 09 Mike program came about. Motherfucker got a higher ASVAB score than me. Like, what the fuck, dude? Then, you know, if you're worried about your physical shape, obviously, I'm not sure how you call it, but we call it fat camp. Fat camp. We call it fat camp. To where they get you physically ready to go through basic training. So there's zero fucking excuses. And if age is a fucking excuse for you, I feel fucking bad for you, because I had this female going through basic training. She turned 40 years old in basic training. She had fucking kinkle. She was fucking hurting. Was a sick call. But hey, she fucking passed. Somehow she passed. So if you're right now sitting in your fucking couch, you know, scratching your goddamn belly button and shit like that, eating chips, like, maybe it's time to do something different. Or if you just feel stagnant in your life, I think it's time to give it a try. You know, you don't have to do a combat jobs. Combat jobs are such small percentage of the military.
We have so many different MOS.
So many fucking MOS
to choose from.
There's fucking laundry specialists. I didn't fucking know that was a thing.
Me neither.
I didn't know it was
until they just said it yesterday about you guys talking about it. I was like, that's a thing? I'm like, I didn't even know that was a thing.
So if you want to come and fold shit, I don't know. I haven't seen the description, but if you want to come in and fold shit, there's electricians, there's everything, man. But it's all going to depend on you, because it does depend how you do on the ASVAB. Physical aspect, obviously. But don't be discouraged, man. Like, because there's always, let's say it's better to put one foot inside the door, and then later on, you could always change your MOS if available. You know,
and if you're slightly, out of like weight, you know, if you're slightly out of shape, you know, I promise you basic training will help you get into shape.
Oh yeah.
Like, you do a lot of different things that'll help you get into shape. So if you're like on the borderline, you're like, well, I don't know if I'm going to make it, you go, and I promise you they'll get you into shape.
And if you don't get in shape, it's because it's one of you motherfuckers sneaking shit into the bay. eating fucking contraband. Yeah, I've seen y'all in the fucking restrooms and shit, in the fucking stalls. But yeah, man, like, I encourage everybody. I think military service should be a requirement. Yeah, I think it definitely helps you as a person. Definitely helped me as a person. And it's just career wise, I mean, it's great. I if God permits and my body permits me, I can retire at 40, 41. That still gives me time when the retirement age now, it's 65. By the time I'm fucking 40, it's gonna be like fucking 90.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna be a goddamn dinosaur fucking doing none of that shit. I want to enjoy my time off. You know, the time that I gave the military, I want to give it to my spouse, to my kids, and hopefully that they understand that, you know, we do the things we do. Doesn't mean everybody's like this, but because we want to serve. And, you know, if it wasn't for motherfuckers like us that want to sign the dotted line, who knows what this country would have become. You know, yesterday I was watching the hunt for Osama bin Laden.
Yeah, I just watched that too. Yeah,
dude, it was
that was a good documentary.
It was a little bit more of an eye opener of like why we do the things we do, and I believe that kids now that are wanting to join, I think they're missing that sense of purpose. Mm-hmm. And I feel like once you give a sense of purpose to somebody, there's nothing that can stop them. But, you know, if it's that means, but that starts all the way at home, from school, your teachers, the way if they inspire you to be something better than what you are. You know, those streets they ain't it. They catch up to you one way or another. some of my classmates that I graduated with are already freaking dead, and because they thought it was cool to sell, to hang out with the wrong crowd, shit like that. So it caught off to them, and I'm just like, wow, like I'm very lucky that I had a different mindset and that I had the right people surrounding me. Honestly, whip my ass. My mom would literally tell me, if I see you come home drunk, I'm calling the police myself. It's like, hey, mom, like, what the hell? Like, Roger. But sometimes you need that.
Yeah.
And I'm very thankful for everybody that surrounded me, the good and the bad, because how we talked in the beginning about toxic leadership, they definitely helped me shape who I am today. And I mean, I can't. The point of this life is to continue to move forward, not backwards. So, yeah.
Yeah, life is all about progression. I mean, that's like a big thing with us is like, rank structure and different things like that. And both of us as E5s, like, we try to do whatever we can possible to, lighten the load on either end, higher or lower, but, a lot of people that are specialists are like, questioning like what can they do, to be do better and be better leadership whenever they reach that. I feel like for me, if I ever give advice to anybody that's, about to become an E5, like this is the time to where, things start changing, of how you, I mean, not necessarily like because you can be a leader as an E4, as a specialist, but this is to where like you become an NCO, everything changes of that aspect. You have people calling you sergeant now. What are some tips that you'd give to people for that transition from specialist to sergeant?
The first thing I am gonna say is that, and this came from a very, very respected first sergeant that I had, and he said everybody is a leader, and I think that's true. I think everybody's a leader. The stripes on my chest just gives me authority to do certain things, but that doesn't mean I'm a great leader. That doesn't make me a leader.
Yeah.
So I've seen E2s, E3s, to where they're so passionate about what they do that they just do it better.
Yep.
And unfortunately, there's those E4 corporals, E5s, E6s that feel threatened about that, and instead of elevating the whole unit to be like, hey, this is how we should all be, they start fucking with that person. They belittle that person, things like that. So that's not what it's about. So I definitely think everybody's a leader. But something that I would have done differently when from E1 through E4 was go to school, man. One class at a time. You don't have to do a bachelor's, but at least certifications, technical careers, things like that can help you set yourself apart from others, because as we're learning, it's competitive. And the Army, we're transferring. This was an E8 and a CW5 that told me the Army's transitioning from bronze, physical over intellectual, things like that. Like, we want to be obviously a strong Army, but at the same time we want to be a smarter Army.
Yep.
So the only way to show that competitiveness, because at certain ranks, you stop going to the board. You stop freaking trying to sell yourself. You put whatever you have in your resume is whoever higher up in Congress, whoever chooses those next senior leaders at E7s, they compare you, and this guy has school, this guy doesn't, this guy has airborne, this guy doesn't, aerosol, whatever, Ranger school, cyber school, it doesn't matter. So try to set yourself apart. And I know when we went to the range, the first sergeant there was talking to us about it, where it's like you got to start thinking about how could you set yourself apart. And you can always set yourself apart. You don't have to wait till you're E4 and above. You can always go to the Soldier of the Month more. You can always do those best squad competitions, your expert soldier badge, your expert infantryman. Like there's just so much you could score expert. I don't know. There's just endless opportunities. But once you know. Schools that you could go to at your unit. If you go to talk to your schools NCO, they should be able to provide you a list of the schools that your installation offers at the education center, things like that. But something that definitely is going to count if you were, because you always got to think about, okay, what if I get hurt tomorrow? What if I fall off the fucking LTV tomorrow and I can't walk, I can't do anything? There's a lot of people getting medically reclassed for a reason, med boarded too. So how are you going to set yourself up for success outside of the military? Because, there's always those what if I get hurt? What if this? So definitely I think school not only counts most towards promotion points, other than correspondent courses, military education, but definitely it's just you set yourself up not only inside the military, but outside the military. Because at the end of the day, we're not going to be here forever in the military. This life is going to end at one point or another. So how are you going to set yourself up for success outside? And I think those are certain things that you need to start, that everybody should start looking at, that I wish somebody would have told me at my younger self, hey, I think you should school. Because, and I'm not sure if a lot of y'all know, but I just like Austin, I also got out last year, July 20th, around there. I got out because I was just tired, pretty much trying to find that balance like you, of like family, work, things like that. And the civilian life was just not for me. It only took me a couple months to figure it out, and it's tough out there, if I'm going to be honest. Civilian life is not easy at all. And I think we don't get paid as much as other careers and professions outside. We definitely have a lot less to worry about.
And it's stable. Everything's stable. Everything.
Look at us right now. We're here. We're just sitting down, we're doing a fucking podcast and we're getting paid. Like, what the fuck? Like, it's a no-brainer, y'all. So I think it's definitely higher education, military education, schools, badges, things like that, but it all comes with how much you want it, because you will have those NCOs, those people who are gonna try to stop you because you're lazy to either do the research, do that one phone call that it takes, do the paperwork, and they'll tell you no, it can't be done. But this E6 that I met, who I respect very much, he told me never take no for an answer, unless it's in the goddamn regulation. Then you can't find regulation, but definitely don't take no for an answer. You want to go to a certain school, but make sure that you come with receipts of why, because you have to. The military is all about selling. Hey, I want to go to airborne school, but your ass can't run. But your ass can't run. Hey, I want to go to aerosol, but your ass can't climb a rope. So it's like, you got to do the research. And in today's society, there's no excuse for ignorance, because everybody has a phone, so all it takes is aerosol requirements, and I'm sure it'll take you to the aerosol website, and you can see the requirements of what it takes to become aerosol qualified, airborne qualified, ranger qualified, sapper qualified. So I like we said, it's never about staying stagnant, because there is such thing as, I believe it's called RCP, where you reach a certain point in your career where where the Army doesn't see you progressing. You're just taking up space, and they will kick you out at one point or another. So yeah, I mean, just try to focus on, as you finish your higher education, try to focus on military schools. There's so many others, hazmat. There's a lot. So I would just say to never stop learning, never stop, because just like our instructor would say, knowledge is power. So I believe that's just one way to only help your unit, more people, future fight, but definitely help yourself and your families to set yourself for a successful future.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you coming on.
Man.
Till next time, I'm Austin, and this is Battle Brew.
Later, y'all.